Hey everybody, doing the next video on the garden update. Wanted to show you after a couple weeks how late spring is going. It will be summer here near the end of June, and so let's see at the end of spring how the garden is going. Let me flip you around here. Alright, so here you can see a garden patch where a volunteer potato plant came up from the last year or two that I've been planting potatoes here. You can then see I've had some type of bug come here just in the last few days and has been attacking my collards. So after this video I'll be thinning all that out. I know I've had some slugs I've been killing this year. Also, you'll see the kale plants here have done very well. And so I'm probably going to do a very big harvest today, clean a lot of this off and get it in the refrigerator. Eat it over the rest of the week in salads. But you got lots of kale greens here. There's more kale over there. And there's lots of collards here. Some of them are salvageable, some of them are not. The spinach plants are over here. Spinach has done incredibly well this year. Lots and lots of spinach on these, and I think that they will continue to do pretty well here in the future. So over here you see a bunch of the strawberries. I've pretty much gotten 3, 4, 5, I don't know, I lose track how many harvests. This year I have dealt with a little bit of some type of fungus on them because, as best as I can tell, because I keep leaves under here and it's kind of been sealing in the moisture as best as I can tell. Onion patch doing great. Some volunteer wildflowers or something. They almost look like sunflowers. I'm waiting to see what they do. Wildflowers there. Potato patch is doing pretty good, probably about the same since last time you saw it. A couple more volunteer sprouts and stuff coming up, but not a lot. It doesn't get, I think, quite enough sun back there. Tomatoes did really well back there last year. Here you can see that tomato plant is not doing super good. This one, however, this tomato plant's doing pretty good. And then you see a potato right there and another potato right there. Those were simply some spuds that last week had sprouted buds, and I stuck them in there and they're already doing that well. Another thing you see is you'll see a pepper plant back there and a pepper plant here. I've been surprised. These things continue to perk up. One day they look wilted, the next day the leaves unfurl and begin to grow. So I don't know if it's a watering issue or what. The more I back off and water them less, the better they seem to do. So we'll see. The pepper plants may yet come back. We'll just have to wait. I built a cage here, you can see, out of some old fencing material. That'll be a trellis for these tomatoes and things to climb and expand. Here in the next couple months, they're really going to grow based on past experience. The tomatoes on this side have not done well. I don't know if that's just a moisture issue or they have more sun on this end though. Up here along the old fence you can see the watermelon plant is getting a little bit bigger. Not a ton, but it is starting to grow. And there's some more weeds and things I need to pull out here. The caladium looks like it has come back and survived. Spearmint has gotten bigger and is starting to spread out. What I've been doing with the wood chips is I'm just scraping them away from the plant every couple weeks and pulling back the weeds, and that's seeming to facilitate the growth and spreading of the plant so far. The kale up here has never done real well. Just going to let it do its thing this year. The daisies continue to be deflower headed by some type of wild animal. I'm not quite sure what, but they just continue to lose that. Over this way, the sage has gotten a little bit bigger, not a ton. The dahlia flowers, again, same type of thing. Some type of animals getting into some of them, and then also the flowers do die off. You just dehead those so that fresh growth can come. Lots of flowers, though, have been rotating over time. The peppermint has just started to grow. It had not grown much last week. But what I did is I started to pull back the mulch, the wood chips like I showed you over there, because I got 2-3 inches of mulch around these plants along the fence, and then it's helping facilitate that spreading. Because if you can see here, see if I can show you, see if you can see that there's the root. So kind of pull it back, make sure those roots are just a little bit covered up with some stuff, and it's letting that grow. Okay, so that's everything along that side of the house. Let me go over here and show you these sunflowers. They have done incredibly well. Incredibly well. So here are the sunflowers. Those have grown a lot. They're now almost as tall as me, so they're a little over 5 foot. Some of these, the flowers should be coming out before too awful long, and they'll cover up that kitchen window real nicely. But again, those sunflowers have been doing great. Been doing real good with those. You can then see the carrots on this end. They've done fairly well. I'm not sure, maybe a little too much sun. I've not watered much the last couple weeks because I'm letting stuff grow, letting their roots go deeper before we get in the real heat of summer. This tree is doing all right. Need to give it a good watering. Its leaves have started to wilt a little bit the last few days, but that transplant from this year is doing well. The daylilies that in previous videos I had chopped down to almost nothing with the machete have come up and they've already flowered. So even though I've cut those down several times, they flowered. You see behind it the rose bush here. Now it's had a couple of blooms that just recently have died, but that rose bush was planted this year and it's done great. That's probably about 15-20 inches tall at its highest point. Up here on the porch, I've had a little bit of lettuce grow, but it's not done very well because of the heat. It's kind of the wrong time of year. There's a little collard plant right there, but those have pretty much died for the most part. A little bit of onions there, and the heat has started to sprout. And over here I got the fig tree. It's not been doing quite as well, and I got the lemon tree. All this up here, this lighter green, if you can see that in the video, has done really well. It's sprouted, and really pleased with where that has gone. And over around this way, that maple tree that I kept saying I wasn't sure was going to make it, I've pruned it a couple times, the parts that have died, and it's doing fairly well now, it seems. There's still lots of green on it, and I think that it's going to make it this year. It's kind of turned around and surprised me, but you got to water it a good deal. Over here, this evergreen is about the same size as when I planted it, but it's doing great. Have not had to water it too awful much at all. It's been real hardy. Up here, along the front of the porch, you can see a lot more. Now, last video, I believe it was, this collard plant looked like it had about died, had just a couple of leaves. And so that has a bunch more leaves now. That part of the garden's been doing well. Over here, I don't know why it's taken so long, but this cucumber plant is finally starting to grow. And I got tons of trellis work here for it to grow up. Cucumbers will take over your garden. You also see a bunch of carrots back up in there. All that stuff is carrots. There's a carrot plant right there too. And then all this that's sprouting, and you can see flowers, maybe you can see the bee. This is all beets and radishes. Now I've letting it go to seed to some degree by getting big and flowers. And you'll see a beet down there, a beet plant. I'm not probably going to try the beets, but I do use the greens in salads. They've been pretty good. And then down here you got more carrots, and then you got the watermelon plant that's really starting to take off. You see, that's a lot bigger than the other one I showed you. Again, it's going to grow up over all this trellis work, and I'm going to let it really take off here pretty soon. Again, a lot of this growth has taken place over the last 3-4 days, maybe 5 days. Here you got another cucumber plant. It's doing much better. Citronella, that's the mosquito plant, keeps away mosquitoes, doing pretty good. Bunch more daylilies along that side of the house. And then over here, you're going to see the blackberry bushes. Now the blackberry bushes have been doing really well. You'll see lots of the berries red right now because they're going to turn black in a little while. You'll also see that the blackberry bush has put off all these sprouts this year. I think you can probably see those on the video. They're, again, they're 4-5 foot tall. It's put out all these other sprouts from the main bush, and even some of those, that looks like a wild chive right there. And then right over here, even some of the ones that I had brought this year and transplanted, that right there, that whole one side, the darker side was transplanted this year. That whole side has come up just in the last little bit of time. Same thing over here. So several of the transplants are doing this sprouting thing as well. They're doing really well this year. So that is the garden update. Circling back around to where all the strawberries are in slight shade, and getting them to kind of come around this side of the house too, to kind of fill in along the back. So Hope your guys' garden is doing well. Just wanted to give you an update and show you what late spring looks like.